your imagination, of which the world of mortality is but a shadow. When you say, I am, you know it. When you say, I am unemployed, I am gainfully employed, making more than I've ever made before. Don't ask yourself how, why, and through whom. That is not your conscious reasoning mind concern. All I ask is to go to the aim. If I go to the aim and give thanks to the aim, and for the aim, it's done. And let the one in the breadth of my own being devise the best means to take me to that aim. The aim is where I start. The aim is my beginning. I see the whole thing done, and then drop it, and let it happen in my world. So to come back, the I, the in you now, when you say I, no matter how little you have taught yourself so far, may I tell you, you are the infinite God. When we open the Bible, read the story as it's given to us, we may think we are talking about people that lived, individuals, persons as we are, but it's not so. The characters depicted in the Bible are not the individual's name. They are simply states signified by those names. For instance, the name Moses, or the name Abraham, or the name, well, any name that you find in Scripture. They are not individuals, as you and I are. It's simply a state of consciousness through which the individual, you and I, the immortal being, we pass through these states. The word Moses means to be born. It's the old perfective of the Egyptian verb to be born. Abraham, the father of the multitudes. We start there, moving through states. And you and I pass through these states towards our own redemption. We come to the end. And that state is personified in Scripture. And men take the personification and worship it as a person, stick it on the wall, and then cross themselves before it and genuflect, not knowing that these are states. So here what I'm trying to persuade you to do is to follow Scripture. Scripture is the greatest book in the world, and it teaches you, and it tells you, it invites you, and encourages you to exercise your imagination loving on behalf of anything in this world, and that you cannot fail in achieving the goal that you seek in this world, if you know who you are. Praying to an external God is not going to help you at all. There is no external God. God actually literally became man, that man may become God. He isn't pretending that he's man, knowing all along that he is not. He literally became man and completely emptied himself of his divine power and took upon himself the limitations and the constrictions of man. And finding himself man, he now is subject to all the weaknesses of man. But in the end, he discovers and remembers who he is. And then, as man remembers who he is, he shares that memory with his brothers who have not yet remembered who they are. For we are all one. And there's only one God. All one God, buried in this fragmented state called humanity. And so I'm telling you that tonight, and it will not take you long, if you know exactly what you want in this world, and you're willing to assume that you have it, and speak tonight as though it were true, and make a mental image of friends round about you, congratulating you on your good fortune. And you see them in that act, and you accept it. You don't make any excuses about it. You accept it as fact before it is seen by the world.
We can say the same thing over and over, and finally, at one little moment, people grasp it, they understand it. So I can tell you night after night that all things exist in the human imagination. And I can tell you that man is all imagination, and God is man, and exist in us and we in him. That the eternal body of man is the imagination, and that is God himself. That is the divine body we call Jesus Christ in Scripture. And because of previous training, we may question that or hesitate to, well, take it seriously. Tonight I hope I can show you through stories how true this is. You may never really lose yourself to the extent that I wish you would, but nevertheless I'll tell you. Last Saturday, a friend of mine in from New York, she came in during the week and she was here on Friday. And I invited her to dinner on Saturday with a few other friends of hers out here. She called during the day and asked if she could come early. Could she come at 4 instead of 5 when I invited them? That she had things to tell me, and they would not understand it, and she would feel ill at ease in the presence of others in discussing these things. Now let me go back a little while with this lady. I met her here in this city 20-odd years ago. She was a beautiful young woman, about 30, a model. She had bought a little home for her parents and she was paying off the mortgage. And she said to me then, this is now 20-odd years ago, I've always dreamed of going to Paris. And I really don't have the money. I have enough in the bank to go tourist and live for just 1 week in a modest way. Go to some small little hotel or maybe some little rooming place. And only for a week. I couldn't afford beyond that. And even that seems stupid now. But I think that I'm still paying off on the house. I said, you're asking the wrong person for advice because I'm not a rational person when it comes to the world. To me, I do not go along with the reasoning mind. I am talking of an entirely different principle. I am speaking of imagination, and imagination to me is Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ to me is God. And there is nothing but God, and all things are possible to God. If you want me to give you a reason for going or not going, do not ask me. You want to go, and you have just enough for a quick one. 1 week in Paris, maximum. Go tourist and live modestly and come back. Well, she didn't tell me what she would do, but she did go. On the second day in Paris, on a blind date, she met a man, 23 years her senior. He was already married 5 times. There was no offspring, but they fell in love. He divorced his 5th married her, and they were blessed with a child, the image of that man. When I saw pictures of him, he was born in Russia, when I saw pictures of him, it could have been pictures of his little boy. Through the years, well, the man is very wealthy. He came into a fortune. International business. Factories here in our country, factories in Paris, factories in Puerto Rico, and factories all over. A very, very wealthy man. He went wild over this offspring. Well, as the boy grew, he was then 2.5 years old, and one night I had a vision, and I saw a little boy. He was about 5 years old, handsome beyond measure, and he told me that I was his father. I said, well, if I'm your father, then when are you going to come on earth and be my son? So I'm your father. Are you coming down to earth and be my son? He said, yes. I said, when? He said, on the 10th of November. I said, you are? Now this is late September. So I said to my wife the next morning, I said, darling, you know, you're going to have a baby on the 10th of